Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking at another devblog for Drone Age, and this is for the SMS Elbing. This one is actually kind of interesting, basically because it is a First World War cruiser. We don't actually have many of those in the game. Usually when it comes to World War I stuff, it's mainly the battleship or battlecruiser stuff, so kind of nice to see things like this. Maybe in the future we'll see more of these vehicles going forward. It is going to be rank 3. It's going to be in the German Blue Water Naval Tree, so people can enjoy it there. Let's get into the history of this vehicle. In 1912, the Russian Imperial Navy sought the procurement of 2 new light cruisers for its fleet. Since the ships were to be ordered from foreign shipyards, the German Schiffsbau work in Danzig eventually received the contract, with construction work starting shortly afterwards in 1913. The first ship, named Muraviev-Amursky, was launched in April of 1914, while the other ship, the Admiral Nevelskoy, would be launched several months later. However, following the declaration of hostilities between the German and Russian empires in the summer of 1914, both ships were seized by the German Navy and ordered into service with its own fleet. Subsequently, the 2 ships were renamed the SMS Pillau and Elbing, respectively. As SMS Elbing had yet to be fitted out after its seizure, its original equipment had to be revised in order to be aligned with the standards of the German Navy. As a result, the ship received a much more substantial primary battery in comparison to its original design. The SMS Elbing was completed and commissioned into service in September of 1915, and after entering service, the SMS Elbing didn't have to wait long for its first major combat operation during the war. Namely, the ship took part in the bombardment of Yarmouth and Lowestoft in April of 1916. Only a month later, SMS Elbing would also take part in the largest naval engagement of World War I, the Battle of Jutland. As the nighttime caused confusing fighting conditions, the battleship SMS Posen ended up accidentally ramming the SMS Elbing. The collision tore open the ship's hull, and the subsequent flooding of the engine compartment and electrical generators left the ship without power. The crew was evacuated by the German destroyer. Few crewmen left with an order to blow the cruiser if British ships approached, so they did in the end. So one of the interesting things about this light cruiser is that it actually has some pretty powerful guns on it, but at the same time, they're just at very, very awkward angles. What's funny is they also make a point in the devblog to talk about how instead of having to do the 127mm from the destroyers, you now get 150mm cannons, which you can use. But I believe there are German destroyers with 150mm on them anyway, so I don't really understand how that works. But the thing is, these 150s will be able to do a lot of punching power to many different vehicles. The problem, though, when it comes to these 150s is, even though there is a decent amount of them, there is 8 of them in total, there is 4 on either side of the machine, and there is no way that you would be able to bring a lot of them onto bear to be able to hit targets. The most that you're going to be able to bring to bear at once is probably 5 out of the 8. 2 you're definitely not going to be able to, and the other one will have awkward angles. So 5 150mm, I mean, I suppose that's okay, depending on what the reload is, and also how much damage that you can take while you are bringing those things to go around. It also has access to 452mm utility cannons, which will be pretty useless, and then also it has a pair of 500mm torpedo launchers, which will also be useless, because the World War I torpedoes, as we've seen, are not very good. It doesn't really have a lot of other stuff though, so its actual armor is pretty bad. Since it's a light cruiser, it doesn't really have a lot. It has a 20mm horizontal deck on it with 40mm side plates. The layout protects the ship's vital modules from salvos of HE rounds of up to 150mm and AP of up to 105. The steering room also has 80mm of protection. So this thing is not really going to be protected against much, especially if most people are using AP. One of the things is because the guns are spread out quite a lot, it doesn't have like this one huge ammo rack somewhere that you can make go pop. So that's quite nice, but it does mean it has a lot of smaller ammo racks which are sat around the machine. So it'll be quite easy to pen it. The thing can also get up to 27.5 knots or 51 kilometers an hour, which is quite nice. So you'll be able to move around the place, but because it's a First World War vehicle, it doesn't have access to any of the AA components that a lot of other machines have. And it's kind of interesting to see this vehicle. I didn't think we were going to see light cruisers and heavy cruisers from the First World War. I thought they were just going to do the big bangers, but it seems like that is not the case. It seems like we're doing all of these different machines as well, which is pretty cool. And the Elbing, even though it's not really going to be a trendsetter, it's going to be in that like little area of 47 to 50, where a lot of the cruisers are just not very good, is probably the best way of putting it. They're not vehicles which are meta. You know, they have interesting matchmaking. They have a beat up destroyers, or they lose to American destroyers, or they get beaten up by cruisers. So they have very weird matchmaking. It either goes down or it goes up, and depending on which one ends up, you get battered. Some machines are pretty okay in an up tier. You know, they can work pretty well, but these types of machines definitely aren't. When I think of machines like the Trento, for example, the Dido, the Arrow Thirst, I think it's called, for the British, and then also stuff like the Trenton and the Raleigh for the Americans. It's the same kind of deal, but I think the Elbing will actually be weaker than those things, since it has these awkward gun angles, and since at the same time it probably won't have the best shell, since it is a First World War vehicle. I feel like this one's just going to be kind of cumbersome to play. It's not going to give you a really good experience when it comes to cruisers, and it's just going to be a bit more frustrating to play than other things, just because of, once again, those gun angles, and also the fact that it can't really take a hit. So when you get certain Second World War destroyers, like the Porter class, that you're going to face, the Somas, which turns up, even stuff like the British machines with their high fire rates, they're just going to spam you with HE or AP, and if they spam you with HE, then those very limited amounts of guns that you're going to have on the vehicle already are going to be even more limited. And then if they spam you with AP, then eventually they're going to hit something that's valuable and you're going to go pop. So I don't really feel like this machine's going to be that good. The key to it is going to be fire rate as usual, because the guns are large caliber, and as somebody who's used a lot of the destroyers and also other German machines with 150mm, I've found that as long as you can get enough shells off, you can do crippling damage pretty quickly to these larger machines. Then you can actually, you know, do pretty well with it. But it's relying on a few factors: getting the first shot up, having an okay fire rate, and also at the same time having decent HE so you can kind of crumple things as you go. But also with a lot of the armor changes on many cruisers, maybe metas will be changing around the place, but who knows when it comes to stuff like the Elbing. Hopefully you'll enjoy it, and hopefully you'll enjoy the update when it comes out soon. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman675, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Jerry Prevolt, Megadino King, Orange Tail, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Uncle Bean, Sem Arslan, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.